let's do a makeover. I stand here before you in my robe, greeting the day. If my hair looks crazy, it's because it is. It's an exciting day because I'm gonna make over my bedroom. So the situation is twofold. Room has been sort of like halfway done for a while. I started living alone here over the summer. I lived here previously with a partner. I don't anymore. It's fine. When I was initially like an independent lady living her life, I did like a general reconfiguration of the space. But it just has been sort of halfway done. Like, for instance, there is spackle on the walls. The walls are not the color that I want them to be. And I just need to do like the last little finishing touches to make the space what I envision for myself. So that's kind of number one. And number two, the timing of it, the reason why it's now, I have admittedly been feeling like some beginning of the year funk. I think it's a pretty typical human experience. I've just been sort of feeling like bleh, since January 1st. A surefire way to like break me out of any slump of, we could call it depression, is to do a project. This is an ideal project. I've been wanting to do it for a really long time. I'm gonna do something kind of wild to the ceiling. More on that in a bit. Point of order, if I look different or if I sound different, don't know why I did this gesture for sound. It's because I'm using like a big girl camera. I just say that if it's worse, I hope it isn't. This has been the intro. I am grasping onto sanity with the very, very ends of my claws. Let's make over this room. All right, so the plan for the room, the walls are gonna be, they're a terrible gray, and that's gonna go away because if the goal is to shake me out of depression, gray's gotta go. So they're gonna become a nice warm cream color. I was trying to figure out how to incorporate color into the room. It's such a small space. My nervousness about color in here was that like it would make it feel like the walls were like closing in if I put a ton of color or pattern on the walls. And I was seeing images on Pinterest and YouTube and just the internet at large of cool things that people had done with ceilings. So that sort of got me thinking. And then the two sort of final stages of inspiration. First, Caroline Winkler, just an incredible interior designer in general. She wallpapered her ceiling, which was pretty cool. I was so inspired by it. And then a good friend of mine shared some images of this hotel she'd stayed at in Thailand, either Thailand or Indonesia, one of those two. They had put tapestry rugs on the ceiling, like these beautiful brocade damask tapestry rugs. And I just thought that was like the most luxurious looking thing. I thought, okay, maybe I'll combine these two pieces of inspiration and make my own tapestry rug on the ceiling. My plan is to paint the ceiling like a deep red color and then use a wallpaper simulating stencil and stencil the ceiling to make it look like a cool tapestry rug. I'm pretty excited. It's gonna be like the Sistine Chapel in here. Just call me Michelangelo. And then I'm gonna do some curtains. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with curtains yet. Man, it's so early to be filming. I really don't think I don't know if I've set this up well. We're doing our best. I found a cat. What do you think? Are you gonna get your paws in all the paint? Okay, hang on the bed. All right, here goes nothing. I have cleared everything out of this room, and I'm gonna start putting paint in here. I think the ceiling is probably priority. What do you think, Fred? What should we do first? Thank you, bud. Let's paint a room. So for my money, there's really nothing better than painting a room. Yes, it's
time consuming, and yes, it's a big pain to clear all the furniture out of a room and put down drop cloths and tape if you're a person who tapes, but I love nothing more than clearing an evening of other responsibilities, putting on a favorite album or a TV show, and then just going to town on some paint. I also think that there's something that connects me to being a kid when I paint a room. It's kind of the grown-up version of drawing on the walls, except that nobody's going to put you in timeout afterwards. It's a pretty fun bit of justice for my inner child. And I know I set that up in a jokey way, but I do think connecting to your inner child when you're in a moment of challenging mental health can be a really positive and healing practice. So, you know, good job.
Classic home improvement fashion, I have determined that I do not have all the necessary things for this project, so I am going to go, oh, no, there's a thread here on the inside of my camera cap, that's not good. I'm going to go to the hardware store to get more paint, but I do have a somewhat light, but I do have a first coat on. I'll show you. It's starting to look good. The experiment is working so far. But now I have to I'm stalling because it's like -20 in Minnesota right now. And I do like winter, but that's just excessive.
So after what was unfortunately a fruitless and unnecessarily cold trip to the hardware store, I got the first coat of cream paint on the walls and then decided to get some rest and finish the rest in the light of day. And honestly, I am by no means an expert when it comes to home improvement projects. I really think it's questionable that I'm allowed to be in charge of a house at all. But one basic piece of advice I do have is to break up painting projects over the course of a couple of days. Obviously, there is a practical component to that. You need time to let the paint dry and cure, but I've also found that coming at a project with fresh eyes in literally different light is a good way to avoid making any mistakes and catching little things that might otherwise make the room look sloppy.
The stencil arrived. I was about to open it, and then I thought, we should open this together. Hey. So I ordered this from Royal Design Studios, and I will link them in the description box and all the places that, you know. Ooh. Oh, it's really lovely. Is there a good way to show it? No, probably not, because... Well, I think it's going to be beautiful. As expected, this project is helping my mental state. Without getting too deep into it, I know I mentioned this in the intro, but I have just been feeling sort of like a general malaise at the beginning of this year. And there are like a lot of factors there, but a lot of it's felt pretty inexplicable. And there's like a flow state that you get into, specifically with like painting a room. There's something just unbelievably therapeutic about it. I'm trying to be a little bit careful with how I say this, but doing house projects feels like, for me in this chapter of my life, feels like really cementing and like claiming my independence. This is no way a slight to my former partner, because I actually think this is just like a pretty normal thing in romantic relationship. A big point of tension and contention for us often was our differing relationship to house projects and like home design, in concert with some of the other elements of the relationship that weren't working towards the end. It's something that caused me like a ton of grief, and something that I felt kind of equal parts angry about and guilty over. And I think some of that's like coming up for me as I do this, because this is like this is probably the biggest project that I've done in the house post breakup. And it feels very, it feels really powerful to me. yeah, it feels like there's like a lot mixed up in it. It feels both like this huge gratitude for my self-sufficiency. I kind of feel like I blinked and I was this independent adult woman who could turn her house into a living art project if she wanted to. And mixed into it too is like some residual grief for a beautiful partnership that kind of unexpectedly ran its course. There was a lot of sadness for both of us in that recognizing and coming to terms with the fact that though we loved each other so much and continue to, that doesn't mean it's the right partnership forever. And so just like painting this room and like really making it mine, I think some like ghosts of having to let that partnership go have joined the party a little bit. But even in that, I feel like that is something, that catharsis and that kind of like shaking up of, I don't know, psychic weight is helping me move through the funk. Hey, thanks for letting me cry on camera. We haven't done that together before. So much is new in this video. We're doing a DIY project. We've got a new camera and microphone set up. We're weeping. What more could you want? All right, I'm gonna get to it. Enough of this crying stuff. The walls are cream. They're not gray anymore, so we've escaped that particular gloom. And the ceiling is successfully hot apple spice. And I've called in reinforcements because it's now stencil time. My friend Michelle is here. Hooray! And we both unwittingly wore UC Berkeley, what are those called? T-shirts. It's like, I'm so pleased.
It's so nice.
This is the best. I'm like, I was saying earlier, I was doing just like a little bit of like reflecting on like what doing a house project feels like as like a single lady. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was coming up for me is there's no one here to naysay.
Yeah.
That's true when it's just me, but it's actually like even nicer to have somebody else come into the space and be like complimentary.
Like it's great.
It's great. That's like all the validation I need.
Having Michelle here for this stage of the process really was the best. Not only was she invaluably helpful in the practical doing of the project, but she's just one of the people in my life who I, without question, feel like the best version of myself around. There's just a very easy and natural flow of fun and joy that's been an inherent part of our friendship since day one. And when you're feeling not your best, leaning into time with your core people can go a long way towards patting you back into place. Sometimes you just gotta laugh with your Vokes. But back to the matter at hand, the process was really fun and also very time consuming. I ultimately did finish it solo after Michelle went home, but if you attempt this, I would say you absolutely need to at least start with 2 people to work out the mechanics of getting the stencils adhered to the ceiling. That did prove to be the most challenging part, but we got into a pretty decent flow. Spray adhesive is also a vitally necessary component for this process because gravity is really good at doing its job. After I finished the stenciling, I went back in with just a brush and the red paint and filled in any of the messy places, and I am so happy with how it turned out.
It's done! I did it! It's all done. My neck has never hurt more. I feel like I just went to, this would require me to be a different person than I am, but I feel like I just went to like a really like headbanging concert. I don't know the genre. I guess it would be metal, ska, whatever concerts have mosh pits where they go, Rah! I feel like I just did that. But what I did was paint a ceiling at 31. I'm so happy with the result. It definitely looks, it's imperfect, for sure. It's for sure imperfect. What I would if I were going to do it again, knowing what I know now, I would probably purchase more than one stencil, because as I learned as I went, the first stencil that I did is a lot crisper and cleaner than subsequent applications of the stencil, and I think that's just because the spray adhesive builds up on the back and creates like distance between the wall and the paint, the paint application, and then the stencil itself just gets kind of like heavy with paint, so it just gets sort of like sodden. So it just gets a little bit sloppier as you go. I mean, like that could also be user error, because I was definitely moving faster for the last half of the ceiling because I was in pain and I wanted it to be done. Even in the places where it's imperfect, I kind of like it. I mean, it looks like vintage, like stone, like hand-painted vintage tiles that you might find in like Spain or something. It feels a little Spanish in here. I don't know if that's actually right, but that's sort of the vibe that I get. It feels like an artisanally painted pot. So I'm for sure not gonna make you watch me be frustrated putting this whole room back together, but I will. Here, I'll do a cool magic trick. You ready? Do a YouTube magic trick. Alakazam!
The room is a room once again. Fred has given the ceiling very, very good reviews. When he first came into the room after it was done, he hadn't seen any of the process because I wanted to keep him away from the paint. So he walked in and he looked up and went like this. Pretty freaking funny. Everything's put back together. I'm gonna put curtains up. I'm nervous that they're not gonna be super exciting, but I think they're gonna be serene and lovely. I purchased some lovely sort of cream colored curtains. I debated whether or not to do a red curtain because to like tie the ceiling in, but then I was just worried that it would be too much red in here and that it would feel like, I don't know, really like intense. I don't really want my room to feel intense. I want my room to feel like a sanctuary. Wow, there's so much paint on this floor. If you're wondering, this is indeed the sweater that I was knitting in my last video. I love it. I think it's my favorite sweater that I own now. I'm gonna do these curtains. I'm gonna use a power tool. You're gonna see me use a power tool for the first time. Won't that be exciting? A key part of any home improvement project, make sure you pick the time to do a task when you don't have time. I have 15 minutes to do a project that I'm certain is going to take more than 15 minutes. Well, you know, why not make things hard for yourself? All right, friends, that's the makeover. I am so pleased with how it's turned out. It makes the room feel both bigger and airier and cozier. I am having the experience, having done this project, of being on the other side of it, feeling like pretty refreshed and pretty back to myself. I won't sit here and lie to you and say, a switch flipped and all my problems are gone and I feel fabulous. No, I mean, like, that's not how anything works, and that's not why we deploy tools for self-care. But I can truthfully report that I feel much more in touch with the best version of myself, without getting too bogged down in the details of the world. We've entered a time where I suspect we're all gonna need to do just a few more self-care check-ins. There's a lot to feel right now.
in the world at large. I don't want it to seem like I'm putting too much importance on, the painting of a room, but I do just want to offer a recommendation for claiming moments of joy, giving yourself permission to dive into a project, even if you're feeling far from yourself, because I think very, very possibly reconnecting with yourself is hiding somewhere in the project. And while painting and redecorating my bedroom isn't a cure for any mental health struggle, isn't something that will solve world problems, it is a way to lean into creativity and to claim a tiny little pinprick of joy. And I just think that that is an important thing. So for whatever it's worth, I offer that. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you for being here. Let me know down in the comments how you are leaning into creativity at the start of this year. Let me know what projects you're working on in your homes. I love hearing from you. I will be back with another video for you very, very soon, and I hope that you are taking very good care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye. Bye, 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 bye.